Okay, welcome to the forgiveness workshop, part something or other. This is the Euro one. And in this workshop, we're going to look at forgiveness and healing, how those two go together. I thought I'd start with a story, a healing story, when I was working with someone to show the importance of forgiveness. I've got the notes I made here, so I think I'll go by them. This was a guy, John, who came to see me because he had chronic pain in the base of his neck. He was rather skeptical about the type of healing I was doing. He was a bit of a scientist. The pain had been in the back of his neck for months, and he'd been advised a long course of physiotherapy. So I relaxed him, and we had a prayer of opening. And suddenly he saw the face of his aunt appeared before him. His aunt's alive. And the voice just calmly said, "This pain in your neck is a vengeance upon yourself for what you did." He didn't quite understand it, and the words were sent calmly, so he just dismissed it. So I thought I'd take him on a guided journey. Perhaps he could meet a wise being that could help him. I thought I'd take him into a forest. But that didn't work out too well. He came out very irritated. I said, "I tried 4 times to get in your damn forest, and each time this white mist appears." Right. So I suggested John he should accept the mist, there for a reason. And then he saw a human cell appear in the mist. And from his science background, it was surrounded in a violet light. He saw it was a cancerous cell. And then suddenly the memory of his dying mother returned, and very strong feelings of guilt and shame. What had happened, he'd felt unable to die. He felt unable to cope and care for his dying mother. So he passed her over to his aunt. And it was the aunt who appeared at the beginning. And then he began to cry. And it was the first time he was able to shed tears for his mother's illness. He said he realized he had repressed all his guilt and shame around this issue of giving his mother over to the aunt. And now he needed to obtain forgiveness. So I encouraged him to role reverse with his mother and explain his fears and ask her forgiveness. And the pain in his neck started to feel much better. And he understood the significance then of the aunt's remarks at the start of the session. John felt his repressed guilt and shame over the handle of his mother's illness was because his mother actually died of cancer at the base of her neck. He was around for about 4 days, and he said the improvement had been maintained. It hadn't been a complete healing because it hadn't been a complete forgiveness. But in this case, the forgiveness session with his mother allowed the guilt, which was trapped in the base of his neck, mirroring his mother's cancer at the base of his neck, to leave. I'll give you a quote from the course. It's from the psychotherapy pamphlet. Very interesting quote for me when I work with healing. "Sickness takes many forms, and so does unforgiveness. The forms of one but reproduce the forms of the other, for they are the same illusion. So closely is one translated into the other that a careful study of the form of sickness takes will point clearly to the form of unforgiveness that it represents. Yet seeing this will not affect a cure. That is achieved by only one recognition, that only forgiveness heals unforgiveness. And only unforgiveness can possibly give rise to sickness of any kind." I'll say that again. only unforgiveness can possibly give rise to sickness of any kind. This realization is the final goal of psychotherapy. Another story of someone I worked with. This was a woman called Julie. She came to me because she felt she'd lost all connection with spirit, and she knew this wasn't right. She said she felt very stuck. So we got into the session. That's right, we were into the session, and she said she was very stuck. I asked her where she felt stuck, and she said at the top of her head. It felt like a trap door that was closed, she said. So I asked her if she wanted to open the trap door, which she said she did. And then she floated out of the top of her head. And these silver beings started to come towards her. They wanted to talk to her. And she said, "This is a load of nonsense," and promptly stopped the session. Once again, she thought that spirit was nonsense, but she agreed to try again. And I asked her, this voice saying it was all nonsense, I said, was it her voice? And she said, no, it was a man's voice. And then this past life experience came to her. She and her father in that life were religious leaders, deeply into spirituality. But somehow they'd upset their tribe. They were blindfolded, tied up, and left by themselves to die in the desert. Their death was slow and painful. Interestingly, in this life, she said, she has a strong allergy to dust. As they were dying, she called out to God they served to rescue them. Nothing happened. Close to death, she cried out that there was no God. It was all nonsense. But she felt ready to try again. So she went through the trapdoor in her head, and once again, all the silver beings started to move towards her. And they wanted to counsel her. And then for 20 minutes, she was just in silence. I just sat there as she talked with them. At the end, she felt happy and that she'd left behind her grievances, that she'd forgiven that she had been abandoned in the desert. And she felt reconnected again with her source of love and wisdom. So the problem can be another life. Then you bring it in. So many people I work with sort of channeling and getting guidance. There's often a fear there. And sometimes working with them, they've been persecuted in previous lives because of their psychic abilities, quite horribly. A friend of mine who had psychic abilities was fighting them in the session. She went back to another life, and she was the wise woman, the healer of the village. Everyone would come to her for healings and counsel. But it was the time of the witch hunts in Europe. And they came to her village and persuaded everyone that she was evil. And so they carted her off to be burnt in the village. She was saying, but all I ever did was try and help you. Why are you doing this? And then that was brought into this life. And then that had to be forgiven, that the people she helped, killed her. And I think this is a lot with people, things locked away. I could give you quite a few stories, but I'll stop there. Any comments from anyone?
I would just say that with all the past life readings that I've done for people, it seems to be very much a recurring thing.
Yeah. Mm.
But also, it's not always that way around. Sometimes it's unforgiveness towards themselves
because
of what they have done to others as well.
In a similar way, they've persecuted others for this.
Mm.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, common. So sometimes people can't understand, why are you holding back? This is the age when people want to hear it, but there's always a reason, always a reason. Anyone else? Any past witches or wizards here?
I have a strange anger that comes up, not so much nowadays because one likes to think I'm becoming a bit more spiritual, but I can remember when I was trying to help people and then I was sort of persecuted for it or called names for it. I can remember once there was a guy with a flat tire in traffic and I sort of walked up the row of cars tapped on his window and said, "Excuse me, do you know you got a flat tire?" It was about 3 or 4 cars in front. It was a 2-lane sort of road, right? And as I was walking back to my car, there were these 2 young lads. I was young myself, about my age, sat in the car, and one lad basically was calling me names like under his breath, like, And I'm like, but he was sat right behind the guy, and they could see the tire, but nobody in traffic helped him, right? So I tapped on the window, and I'm like, "What?" Right? And I got back in my car, and he just locked his car button, and I got back in my car, and my friend who was with, he was like, "That's a bit heavy, Kev," right? And I was 26 at the time, something like that. But that's been a theme that when I've tried to help people and they haven't, and I've done it out of the goodness of my heart and put myself out to do it, and then I'm called for it, it's really got to me for some reason, right? So what you said there in that lady was trying to help people in a past life. I wonder if there's a bit of that going on.
It can easily be, Kevin. You just bring it over. You don't know why that's there, because you could just say, "Oh, well, they don't understand." But we carry so many things from so many lives. Yeah. I was just thinking, when I was at Findhorn, we had a game called the Game of Life. It's a board game, but you can play it walking the squares. We had a big hall, and all the members were there, about 150, and we were playing this game to try and sort out issues at Findhorn. The game might reveal things, and I was a player, one of 5 players. We walk around this square for 2 days, throwing dice, having challenges, and I was in the middle of a challenge, and they say, "Look at the audience, Michael. Why are you holding back? What do you see?" And I spontaneously said, "They're all about to throw rocks at me." Oh, where the hell did that come from? There must have been friends out there, Okay, so enough of that. We'll move on now, and so we're looking at sickness and healing and forgiveness. In the course, in the manual, it says sickness is of the mind and has nothing to do with the body. That's why it's forgiveness that heals, because forgiveness is of the mind, of course. Healing involves an understanding of what the illusion of sickness is for. And the course gives a number of reasons. We're not going to sort of emphasize sickness here, but they're all connected with the mind. We should bring the body a little into focus here. I'll bring up a little chart. I'll share the screen. Okay. There's a line in the course, my body is a wholly neutral thing. What we're seeing here is that after we had this tiny mad idea of separation, the one mind split into 3. There's the sleeping son of God, the decision maker who's decided he wants to leave heaven and try separation. And we have 2 other counselors in the mind. There's the ego, which is really the thought of separation, and the Holy Spirit, which wants to guide us back and awake again to heaven through forgiveness. It says, you never separated, you never sinned. But the separation continues, and here we are in a body. For most of us, that's our identity. But I've drawn it like a puppet because the Course tells us the body has no life or intelligence of its own. And the brain, it says, doesn't think. What it does, it processes thoughts from either the ego, thoughts of separation, attack and defense, or it processes the thoughts from the Holy Spirit. You never sinned. Forgiveness will take you home. And it's told to be born. It's told when to die. It's told to be sick. There is exceptions in the Course that sometimes you can choose sickness for a positive reason. And in our lives between lives, when we haven't got the physical body, sometimes we set up a contract that, look, I really want to learn about love and wisdom and compassion. And look, if I don't get it after many years on earth, I need a wake-up call. And I'm open to a car crash, or I'm open to cancer. I want something that's going to wake me up, stir me. Because I came here not to piddle around for money, sex, drugs, rock and roll. I came here to learn about compassion. So it is a minority. Most sickness will be induced from the ego to suit its need, to keep truth away. It's nothing like a sick body to keep truth away. Another reason is to mitigate God's punishment. I'm such a sinner, I better punish myself through sickness, because if God finds me, he's going to make it even worse. Ego also counsels sickness to punish others. There's the line, behold me, brother, at your hand I die. You know, think of our language. You make me sick to the stomach. You're a pain in the neck. You get up my backside, you know. We're blaming the world. I'm the innocent one. That's why it says here from the Course, from the preface, the body appears to be largely self-motivated and independent. It actually only responds to the attentions of the mind. So if your body's ill, you've got to go to the mind, because the body's the effect, and the forgiveness must be in the mind. So that's one of the reasons the ego chooses sickness, is it really gets you focused back on the body, and then truth goes away. Oh, what, we have a little blip here, so we'll go here next. Bingo. Here we are. We've done projection when we talked earlier about forgiveness. There's things we don't like about ourselves, what we're ashamed of, what we don't want to face, and what is triggered by other people that brings it up. Otherwise, we just have compassion for them. So this is what we do when we don't forgive. We try and throw out the guilt that we get in our day-to-day life when we get triggered by people. All they do is trigger the guilt. Our lack of self-worth, for example. You'll go one of two ways. You'll attack others, or you attack your body. It doesn't matter to the ego. It wants you out of your mind, because if you go back to your mind, you can heal it. And the ego wants to live. So it says they're the problem, or it's your body's got sick again. That's the problem. The problem is definitely not in the mind. But if you want to heal the sickness, you've got to forgive the guilt. Computer's misbehaving. I forgive it. Years ago, I was a friend and worked with a medical clairvoyant called Caroline Mace. She didn't learn this stuff. It was just all given to her. And this is also talked about with in Mighty Networks with Jesus, being channeled through Tina. He talks about the chakras and how they relate to diseases and sicknesses and what needs to be forgiven. And just to give a little example, using what she learned. She was so good, doctors work with her. They ring her up and give her the name and age of someone, and she'd say what was wrong with them. And she was 93% accurate. Later, she learned what the psychological roots, what the unforgivenesses were. I'll just pick one to illustrate the way she works. Let's try throat chakra. Number 3, development of the willpower and personal expression. So if you have trouble stating your truth, speaking it out, and perhaps you get caught the other way, you get caught in lies or gossiping all the time, what Caroline could see in each person was a ray of energy coming down through the body like this and energizing these chakras, and they then would energize the physical area, in this case, the throat. But if you were caught up in saying, you're in a relationship and you can't speak your truth and you become the slave, or you get caught in gossiping, she saw some of that energy going out and feeding the thought form. Lack of self-empowerment, lack of speaking up, lack of protest when something's wrong, gossiping. And instead of having 100% energy in the throat chakra, 50% went there. That's not enough to keep that 50%, the throat, healthy. And so then you start to get problems in this area. And each of these produce different problems. So if you've got this lack of willpower, you need to forgive yourself for that. You need to step into your power. You need to speak your truth, even though it might break up a relationship. That's the way it has to be. So I've posted on Mighty Networks, I think more than once, Caroline's booklet, where she lists the chakras, she lists the negative things. But we could take one more example. Does someone want to bring up a problem that a friend's got and you'd like to know about it? Not your problems. I need to find the little booklet. So we'll take one example. And some person at some point will come up and talk about some physical problem in the body. I do hope I do have the booklet here. Got the booklet. Anyone want to volunteer with a physical issue? And so we can find out what sort of unforgiveness that you're dealing with. Perhaps everyone's.
How about breasts?
Okay, so it's the chest area. I don't know if they do. I think they'll have to go for chest. I'm looking up symptoms here. But what I'll do is I just simply go to the heart chakra. So that covers everything around there. That's a big one. So that was chakra number, you count from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4 chakra. That's a big one for most people, one way or the other. Do you remember that story of that woman that headed the Spiritual Emergence Network in California? I stayed with her a while. Very interesting woman. She used to sort of die twice a year and come back again. And she'd help people with all the weird things that would happen with her. But she told me something once. She was very heart-centered, would go out, you wouldn't think there was any problem with the heart. But she said one day, it looked from people around her that she was having a heart attack. They called the ambulance. She was taken. They opened the doors. Just before they closed the door, this stranger came into the back of the ambulance and went to the hospital with her and just quietly said to her, no, you're not having a heart attack. Your kundalini was rising up from the base of your spine and it wanted to come into the heart. You're wonderful at giving, but you're very poor at receiving. And so the energy couldn't get into the heart. It was trying, and it caused the heart to palpitate and vibrate, like you're having a heart attack. So all you need to learn is to let the love in. They got to the hospital, he got out, they never knew who he was. But Jesus through Tina says, we can manifest instantly to anyone when help is needed, and we can put any body on. He says, I, Jesus, sometimes put on an old body, a woman's body, whatever works. So I think there we got a manifestation and a lesson. So you never know who you're talking to sometimes. Fourth chakra. The problems that can evolve around the heart chakra are emotional congestion. The more commonly expressed physical illnesses include heart attacks, enlarged heart, blocked arteries, congestive heart failure, asthma, allergies, lung problems, including cancer, bronchial difficulties, pneumonia, circulation problems, and all upper back and shoulder problems. And of course, breasts will be in there as well. And then she lists the sort of negative emotions, the unforgivenesses for that chakra. And what I found what's best to do, because you won't have all of them, is as you read them, which ones sort of jump off the page and grab you by the throat and says, that's your issue. And then you've got something to forgive and work on. So I'll just go quickly through some of them. Fear of not being loved, or the belief that you're not worthy of being loved. Harboring guilt as a result of participating in personal acts of rejection or emotional neglect to another. Resentment that develops from seeing others receive more love and attention than yourself. Fear of showing or sharing affection. Developing guilt feelings as a result of using anger, hostility, or criticism as substitutes for love. Feeling emotionally paralyzed by experiencing too much loneliness. Experiencing emotional contamination as a result of harboring too many negative and judgmental feelings towards other people or other forms of life. Experiencing emotional contamination as a result of holding on to old hurts and past resentments. Developing emotional fears and bitterness as a result of believing you cannot forgive or directly refusing to forgive. Continually creating relationships that are emotionally unfulfilling or abusive. Guilt from feeling you have not successfully fulfilled your emotional commitments. Doing something or being with someone when your heart is not in it, in quotes. And lastly, too much grief and sorrow, resulting in literally development of a broken heart. Does anyone want that booklet with all the chakras? What I could do is I
Yes, please.
can find it very quickly. I'm just going to my little box here of reminders, and I can drop it into the chat. And this is probably Caroline Mace chakras. Caroline Mace Word document, PDF document. PDF should be for everyone, I think. Yep, there it is. I'll just drag it out to there, put it on my desktop, come back to Zoom, bring up chat. And a little thing here, let's see what it says. Dropbox, your computer. Nope. Your computer. Okay, we're almost there. So I brought up my computer, A to Z. Caroline Mace. There she is. Open. It should now be loaded. It's now in your chat if you like to have a look. Chakras and health. Has everyone found it? Anyone speak?
Yes, yes,
got it.
thank you.
I can't see it.
You brought up chat, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm on my phone. So I clicked on the chat and it's not in there. But,
If you have trouble, Kevin, I'll email it to you.
oh, thank you.
Yeah, phones are difficult. Anyone else have a
Yeah, I can't get it even in chat on my phone either. If you wouldn't mind emailing it.
Can you, because I don't always readily find the emails, can you email me? You got my email, haven't you?
Sure.
And you, Kevin, can you email me? And I'll send it straight back to you. So anyone having difficulty, email me. And so the whole PDF is there with all the diagrams, the lot. Okay, anyone want to comment on any of this before we move on?
But Michael, we can download this file from the chat.
Yes, can you see it in the chat, Paula?
Yes,
Are you a
And
Macintosh or a PC?
a Mac.
Pardon?
Mac.
Mac. Click on it, keep your finger down and drag to the desktop and then release. Click and drag. I'll see if I can do that. I'm telling you to do it. Ah, no. Okay, there's the other way. Well, that doesn't work either. It's interesting.
Just open it and then save it.
Ah, thank you. Can you double click on it, Paula?
Okay.
And it should have opened on your computer now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks to the other engineer. Any other points? Let's get rid of that. Okay, so all of those things will have to be forgiven for it to go away. So as I say, read down what jumps off and then take it inside, invite the Holy Spirit. You might feel it in your body. And we could do a forgiveness exercise now, actually, while we're at this stage, unless we have some questions at this point.
I do have a question. What, you know how she looks at the different chakras and whatnot, but what
Yeah.
if it's on an extremity, like I have an issue on my knee or on my elbow, say, for instance? So which
Knee, I can help. I asked her once, I said, you don't mention arms. She said, oh, I forgot that. But knee, I can help you with. That's the root chakra. Number one chakra, if you imagine like a tire going around each chakra, then, you know, round the heart, the tire would hit the heart and the shoulders and the chest. Now, for the bottom chakra, the tire would hit all the way around what's at the base, but it also goes down to the feet as well. Now, you said knees?
I said a knee, but also an elbow, and I don't know where that would hit.
Elbow, I can't help you with, but I noticed.
Be in the emotional, in the stomach.
Well, the
area?
arm, I suppose, is connected along that area. So it could be the heart, but I don't know definitely.
No.
But you do remind me that Jesus, through Tina, agrees with Caroline, except for some small areas around the wrists and the ankles. He moves into other places. And I made a list of these once of where he differs. Again, if you're particularly interested in that detail, email me and I can look it up. Unfortunately, he doesn't mention the arms either, though he does mention, I think, the wrists, the hands, but not the elbows.
Mm.
Sorry about that.
Yes, okay. So I guess we have to resort to Louise L. Hay, the
Yes.
original person who
But she only had a small booklet. I began there.
did, yeah.
And when she talked about like the base chakra, all she really said was fear of not having enough money. But really, it's much more. The base chakra is I don't feel safe on the earth.
Yeah.
One issue is money. But if you live in a place where you're persecuted, that'll be another thing. And if you don't think you've ever been supported while you've been here, it's a frightening place. It's all root chakra down to the feet. Well, we could do a little work on things that need forgiving. And then we can pair up afterwards. So we'll do a brief exercise. So if you like to relax and close your eyes. And I'll mute you all just to save any noises. Okay, you're all muted now. So just take a few gentle but deep breaths to help relax yourself and breathe out the busyness of the workshop. Just become aware of the air going in and out of your nose. Do that 6 times. Now slowly and silently count backwards from 15 to 0. Becoming more relaxed as you count. Now imagine a beautiful ball of light surrounding you. Not only the highest good can come through. Only the love and the wisdom that seeks to help you from your guides can come through. And now send out a silent prayer of welcome. Use whatever word you want. Jesus, God, angels, goddess, Holy Spirit. They need to hear your invitation to help you in this exercise. So invite them in now. If it helps, you can imagine it as a beautiful light shining down upon your body or a hand you hold. And that eternal love has no judgment of you. It just sees all your judgments and pains as a call for help from someone in a nightmare. And nightmares aren't real. You've never harmed anyone because you can't harm the Christ in them or the Christ in you. So these non-judgment beings or entities are with you now, and they love you very much. You may already have a problem in mind, perhaps a problem in the body or a problem in a relationship, whether alive or dead. Or you may want to turn to them and say, where do I need healing? Where do I need to achieve peace? Please show me. Something in the body, another person. If nothing comes, then just choose someone you don't like. Someone on television, someone from your family, someone who's died. That will do. Now start to make all this real for you. If it's psychological, some grievance, some anger, some hate, even against yourself, it's lodged somewhere in your body. Maybe you bring back a relationship and the anger, it's all right to feel hatred. You'll start to feel it in the body. Or maybe you're dealing with a physical pain. You just bring your awareness there. Don't try to heal it or change it. Just become aware of it in your body. Look how large it is, where it starts and stops. And what shape it is. How deep does it penetrate the body? How dense does it feel? Is it heavy or light? Does it have a color? Does it feel hotter or colder than the rest of the body? Yeah, do that again. Have a look at how large it is. Any changes, or is it the same? And then look at the shape. Is that the same? Look how deep it goes into the body, and if that's still the same or changed. How about the density? If there was a color, is that still the same? And the temperature? This area carries intelligence. It carries emotion and feeling. What does it feel like? Is it angry, sad, bored, frightened? If it could speak to you, what would it say? I am. Let's turn the voice into a little frightened child that's in front of you. Your job is to listen to the child. Ask it, why are you there? Why have I created you? It may be upset at you because you don't listen to it. Ask it, why do I keep you? What do I get by keeping you? If you can, pick it up and hold it against your heart and continue to listen. And now ask yourself, is it time to let this little child be free, to be taken by the angels, to go off elsewhere? Is it time to let this pain, this judgment go? Your life will change if you do. Are you happy for that to happen? Or are you a little afraid and you need the child to stay a bit longer? And that's fine. Is it time to be free now? If it feels time to be free, thank the child. It's your creation. You made it. You thought it served you. Thank you for being there. Call in the angels, call in Jesus, whoever. And the child is happy to go with them into the light, play with other children. And see that space that's vacated by the child filling up with golden light. But if you're not ready to let the child go, make it very small. Put it down into your heart and look at it with acceptance. Then when you're ready, come back to the room. And when we're all back, we'll pair up for sharing. Bye, Paola. Paola has to go. So we'll say goodbye to Paola. Bye, my friend. Thank you for coming. We seem to have lost someone else as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. No. Good. So I just got to redo the rooms because I've lost someone. I now have people stuck in single rooms. Let me just stop the recording. Welcome back, everyone. So, does anyone want to share anything from that exercise with the group? Most of you are muted at the moment.
I'm just sharing a small part. The picture I got was because it was a closing off of the heart. It was like a lightning bolt, and it was like it was going not just into the veins, but it was like showing from that point of the closing of the heart that it could just go to anywhere. It has a flow-on effect, many branches.
Oh, interesting. Thank you. Anybody else?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
But it was lovely to let go and to bring in the gold.
Ah, so you're able to let go of it, Judith. Very good. Anybody else?
Mine was at my throat, and I think you couldn't hear me, but you could see me coughing. Well, I could let it go, and I know what it means. It's about, speaking my truth, and it was always difficult for me. So I could let it go, and hopefully my throat will heal now.
And sometimes these exercises are like the first step, and we start moving in a direction of healing, and we may have to repeat it. Sounds good, though. I remember in sometimes in workshops, there might be a week long, and people in my workshops will sit in a circle. At least on 2 occasions, people come up and said, "I've developed a sore throat in your workshop." And I think in both occasions, they admitted they were frightened of speaking in the group. They wanted to speak, but it was too dangerous. And so the throat started to act up. Can be other reasons, but that was their reason. Anybody else?
Yeah, I had I'm getting the feeling I'm having a gout thing trying to come round on my foot. I had it years ago, and I've got the feeling that it's, I've got this bungalow that's all my money's tied up in. I'm sort of hemorrhaging money at the moment, and I need to free that up so I can breathe, right? So, but part of me feels that this gout thing's it to slow me down, like running forward, right? So therefore it's manifesting in my foot a little bit,
Right.
making me, and I had it years before ex-relationship, I was telling Judith. But so I think that part of me is like, are you really willing to run forward yet? I'll slow you, like a self-imposed slowing you down brake. Do you know what I mean? Mechanism. So, but I didn't know why. So I tried to give it the Holy Spirit, and basically said, well, let's just get on doing like God's will now. It's your will, not mine, right? Rather than
Right.
trying to do this. So that's I feel like it's holding me back somehow. A self-imposed holding back tool. So I try to release it and give it away, give it back.
In fact, in my life, it's been the legs that have shown up when I resisted the next steps, put off writing Healing the Cause for a couple of years. I had a funny feeling it would change my mind. And then the first time I wrote the first part of the chapter, I got off the bed and my whole leg started to ache. And by the end of the week, I could hardly walk. And it was resisting, the book and writing it.
Oh,
Then I was involved in the center of Findhorn at the core group, sort of prestigious place. But after 2 years, I knew I had to leave it and I resisted it. And both my ankles went out. I could hardly walk. It was only when I resigned from the group and realized my next spiritual step was to leave the spiritual group, that the ankles got better. And there were 1 or 2 other occasions. I haven't had it for years, so that's a good sign. But it was fear of going forward, unsupported in life,
that's interesting.
So,
Yeah.
what to share? Okay. I think we've only got one more session on forgiveness where we sort of wrap it all up and look at it. And then we'll move on to some other workshop. I can probably hold a poll next time and see what choice you want to take. We have the specialist of making Christmas puddings and with love and forgiveness. No, just joking, guys. It'll be something meaningful and painful. So don't worry about it. Yeah. So anything before we close? Are we there, are we? Oh, well.
No, I think it was a good session. It's interesting to hear again. Yeah, I read all the books with Louise Hay, Carolyn Myss, all the time, many times, over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
But still, it's interesting to hear your experiences from your workshops and see it. I see it in my own life. I see it in other people's life. Yeah, very obvious. So interesting. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. It's lovely being with you all again. You're a great group. I enjoy. Sport
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you for being here. And next one will be a healing session. Okay, another healing session.
Yay. Yay.
Hi, my friends. Good to be with you. Love to the dog. Love to the dog, yeah.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.